I'm Ariane Graham, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And Janae and I are two of the four co-founders. Hi, two familiar faces. Two are the four co-founders of Samara Collective. We're a strategic media and communications firm. I think that's all I want to say for right now.
Hi, I'm Janae Massey. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm also the founder. Thank you so much for attending our workshop. So just really quickly, I want to go over sort of the 4 key points that we're going to be going over today. We have had the privilege of working with home care workers on their marketing strategies in the past. Currently, we're working with the Colorado Care Workers Unite. We're generally working on advocacy work and marketing with them, but we have some really great lessons from our case study that could really apply to marketing for customers or partners or even recruiting more workers. We're going to talk about the basics of storytelling, how to sort of think about the assets that you have and weave a good story to sell your services. The 4 P's of marketing, which Ariane will get into more in depth. And then what happens after you get a lead on the hook in any one of those sort of buckets, a potential worker, a potential client, or a potential partner. So to start, Colorado Care Workers Unite. So they are a growing group of home care workers in Colorado that are fighting for industry-wide improvements. The board is made up almost entirely of caregivers, and they're organizing and advocating, and also have won policy changes within their first year of existing. Since we came on board to help them, we've increased their membership by over 100%, increased their worker leads by 105%, created rapid response systems to follow up with leads within 24 hours, and then passed a landmark bill of the Act to Strengthen and Enhance the Home Care Worker Force in Colorado. And so basically, where I wanted to start was the facts about home care didn't change no matter who we were talking to or what we were asking them for, right? We knew that more than half of the home care workers in the US were making below $12 an hour. We knew that the low wages and benefits had an impact on turnover and consistency of care. We knew that increasing care wages would help with worker retention across the board. And so no matter who we were talking to, these things never changed. And so how did we take these different facts and change them in a way that would be more appealing to each one of the audiences we were talking to? So for the care workers, we were trying to get them to join this organization so that they would have a venue and a group and critical mass to advocate for the changes they needed to see in Colorado. And so a lot of the facts about home care that we had, these workers already knew, right? You guys are on the ground, you're experiencing this every day, you're seeing the work shortage, you're seeing the low wages really impact the amount of workers and colleagues that you have. And so we focused on what needed to change for the care workers. We also really focused on what was inspiring to care workers. We found out through the organizers on the ground that many of the co-workers in Colorado had an EKG tattoo. And so we incorporated that into the logo. Most of them had, as we all do, pride in the state that they lived and grew up and worked in. So we incorporated the shape of the state. And then Unite was really the message that we were trying to get across to them. And so taking these key elements and thinking about that when creating the branding is really important to our success. We also tested multiple messages. You know, we have the theory that we didn't have to talk about the facts that care workers lived with every day, but we didn't just take that for granted. And so we had 4 or 5 ads going at a time. We did multiple different mailers. We did multiple different brochures that had different pieces of the elements and then tested which actually came back. So it's really important to go with your gut instinct, but also test your theories. Now, when we were talking to the public and clients, in our case, for this case study, we were trying to get them to advocate for a bill. But this could also, the lessons we learned here could also apply to recruiting clients to actually provide care for. right? Reminding that the clients themselves or the families that we are trying to work with about the quality care that we have through the imagery of the people providing care, the heart, and then changing the messaging up to really highlight those pieces that maybe not everybody experiences yet, around the demand for care workers increasing, the high turnover, and how critical that would be to anybody experiencing the need for care either in a loved one or in themselves. And then policymakers, also cared about the facts the same way the potential clients and family members would, but they really were more willing to get into the weeds and also like, what's more motivating to an elected official besides the people that elect them? So we targeted this messaging by going more into the weeds, more talking about what this bill would do, how it would do it, and why we were asking for their support. And then by filling out the form that you see on the right with my information in it, we would pick up exactly the legislators that were represented by the voter themselves and target the messaging to that. And so just thinking again, like what is the motivation for anybody that you're talking to, and how do you pipeline directly that motivation to the people that you're trying to move on a topic. And so in less than 20 days, we were able to get 650 of the public and clients to write these letters to the policy makers, and we're able to pass the bill. And then I'm going to hand it off to the basics of storytelling, the process we use to get these different messages.
Thanks, Janae. I'm so grateful that Linda and Juan Carlos went before us because they told a lot of really good stories, right? From their own experience, from the experience of their home care workers. And I want to challenge us to shift our perspective a little bit. What if we told that story about the senior with the high blood pressure from that senior's perspective? I was sitting in a room, I had elevated blood pressure, I needed an ambulance, somebody showed up for me. Somebody took care of my needs. And I'm here today because somebody did that. So that's what I want to get across as we begin to talk about the power of storytelling and getting people excited about what you and your workers are doing every day for your clients. So, basics of the story. Who's our protagonist? Guess what? It's not us. It's your customer. It's your client, right? It's their family. It's either the client themselves, probably their family member, someone who's making a decision about their care and what they need every day. And I see people taking pictures, which is great. 2 quick things. If you don't get one of these, we're going to make sure we make them somehow available to you, either email or we can get more printed. And we have a breakout session where we can practice these things together. All right, on we go. The problem that we're experiencing, what the need for quality care, right? I'm a busy working person. My parents are aging. Can't be there for them every day, but I want to make sure that they have what they need. So I got to find somebody who can provide that quality care to my loved one. What's the setting? I want to be at home. I want to be comfortable. I want my loved one to be home. I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be safe. That is the setting or context that I want them to be in, and how are we going to keep them at home by any means necessary. And then again, this conflict. How am I going to access the care that I need? How do I know who I can trust? How do I know who's reputable? How do I sign up for them? I love how Liv and Juan Carlos talk about, we help you with the process. We onboard the clients. That solves a huge problem for them. So just thinking about it that way, that's the conflict that your client or customer is facing. And then where's the solution? Well, that's you. You're actually not the protagonist, but you are the solution and all of the things that you bring. So again, not just your organization, but what makes you different. So if you help with the onboarding process, if you are of the community and from the community, your care workers look like the people they serve, these are the kinds of things that can distinguish you and make your solution even stronger. And then what we say is a secret ingredient, because we started a co-op, because we came from disastrous and traumatic workplaces. The secret ingredient is the co-op, right? Because we actually understand the power of the worker. We recognize the dignity of the worker. We lift up the worker. And that's going to make for a much more sustainable solution. So we believe that co-ops can really be leveraged as a strategic advantage in promoting your co-op to your clients. And what's the climax, right? Your team provided affordable, safe, quality home care. Your clients don't have to worry. Their loved ones don't have to worry. They know you show up for them, you take care of their needs, and it's one less thing for them to worry about. Yeah, so tell the story of the problem they solved, how they feel, the sense of accomplishment. And even, I love this framework, and even as I learned it, it was pitched in the context of, they showed a picture of a drill and a drill bit, and like a person going to Home Depot and trying to find the right drill or drill bit. That's not actually the solution. They shifted their perspective and said, think about the perspective of the person who was going to buy that. That person wanted to put a bookshelf together. That was the problem that they were solving, right? Think bigger. Think from the perspective of your buyer who wants to put together a bookshelf, put all their books and knickknacks on it, and make it look lovely in their home. So don't get really hung up on like what is the solution and who am I. Think about what your customers can think about. 4 Ps of marketing. If anybody went to business school or studied marketing, this is probably going to be old hat for you, but I promise there's a little surprise on it. So, marketing is simplistically defined as putting the right product in the right place at the right price at the right time. So what does that mean for us? So your product is obviously what you have to offer. It's your good or service. And so I would challenge you to say, like, we offer home care services, and again, like going back to Linda and Juan Carlos, we help you onboard. We make this process easy. We save you time and money and stress. How do you price it? How do you think about pricing it? Again, this is going to be a little easier for people who take private pay. Medicaid is going to be a lot more restrictive. But you can think about how do you bundle your services? How do you give somebody a discount because they referred a family member or friend to you? There's lots of ways to get creative with your pricing to make this more affordable. And we can talk more about this in our breakout group or if people have questions. We're going to talk a little bit about promotion. So where and how are you reaching out to potential customers and clients? Again, keep referencing the prior presentation, but you know your community. You know that churches or clinics or health fairs or a table on the sidewalk, you know where the people are that you want to be with and be talking to. So that's where you go find them. So we do a lot of like digital advertising, and depending on where you are, that might make sense to you. It can be expensive, but we're also going to talk about sort of ways to make that simple and a little less expensive. We're going to talk a little bit about referral partners. We're going to talk about how do you speak directly to potential clients. And then place, when and how is your product delivered. So again, safely, at home, at your convenience, the convenience of the client and the loved one. Okay, I promised you the bonus. So the 5th bonus, fifth P, is people, right? And this is just really what I love about the co-op model, and I think we need to talk about more explicitly how the cooperative movement results in the dignity of workers, more sustainable businesses, less turnover of workers, workers who are healthier, who are cared for, so they can focus on delivering care to your loved ones. I agree with everything that's been said here. Like the home care industry is big and fragmented, and you have armies of marketers that are coming at this. But you know what? They don't always treat their workers so great, right? And that's why you see so much turnover. And who's paying for that? Families, clients. That's who suffers. You're going to tell them, we do it different. We're going to show up for you in a better way. And that goes for your workers as well, right? Like this value proposition appeals to potential members of your co-op. I mean, I think if I were running a home care service, I would want to go find those people that are churning out of these like terrible workplaces and be like, come with me. We can do that. Okay, so yeah, so these are sort of the 2 kinds of people you can talk to, the workers and clients. And I also want to talk about these referral partners. So who in your community can send you the best people? So we talked a little bit about clinics, discharge nurses, churches, the health fair. You know, we can talk more in the breakout session about what your specific context is, because we're going to like actually practice making an advertisement for your home care context. But be thinking about who in your community is a good referral partner for you, and then we're going to talk more about how you can communicate why your co-op. And so I just want to talk a little bit about types of players in a referral partner. My background before I came to the co-op movement was doing like sales and marketing, business to business in with big organizations. So
it was a long process. So the person who was interested in what I had to sell was not always the decision maker. They were not always the person that held the money. And they were not sort of the only player that we had to get past to get to a yes, and where they would buy my thing, whatever it is. So the types of referral partners, of people you might come up against in a referral partner are the advocate. So I would like to think that your average discharge nurse gets it. She's in front of patients all day. She gets that this patient's not going to be safe at home when she lets go, so she wants to be sure that she's putting them in the good care of someone who's going to make sure that their needs are taken care of. I think that person's going to really advocate for you as a home care service provider and saying I know that this person's in good hands. But that person might not be the decision maker who's sure, we will email all of our departments and tell them that your home care service exists. So your decision making, so you got to figure out how do you use your advocates to get to the decision maker who's going to allow you to sort of advertise and market your agency within their institution. Budget holder may or may not be as important depending on what you're asking for. So if you're asking them for sort of exchange of money, or you're asking them to use some of their resources, that's where a budget holder might come into play. Just even thinking about printed materials you want to get in the hands of clients. Printing's expensive, but I heard the previous folks talking about working with Health First. You know what? They've got printers. I bet they pick up the cost of printing flyers for you if that's something that's useful to your business. Defray some of your costs, take some of the stress off of your plate. And influencers. So influencers can be positive, neutral, and negative, but an influencer is sort of anyone that has the ability to help you get through an organization, be neutral, or otherwise block you from getting what you need within a referral partner. So we can talk a little bit about strategies and deal with these types of things because I've dealt with them all. But I'm just looking at a referral partner, understanding that these kinds of people exist within that institution and building a plan to navigate around them can be really helpful when it comes to navigating big referral partners. So now you told your story, you got the attention, you've got a lead for potential clients. How are you going to be successful in following up with them and turning them into a new client? So you're receiving inbound leads because you did all these things and your inbox is overflowing with potential referrals. We find that a lot of referrals go cold really fast. You guys are busy, you're on the ground, you're dealing with a lot of paperwork, dealing with a lot of fire drills that come up. But the key to really closing these leads is timing. So even if you can't solve their problem right away, just acknowledging that you received that inbound referral and saying, I've got you, we typically respond to these in this amount of time, and I'm gonna come back to you with these questions. And then give them something to do in the meantime, right? Get your Medicaid enrollment information ready. Tell me a little bit about your home and your needs and your loved one. And so they have some homework to do while you get some time to follow up with them. While the lead is waiting, what information gap can you collect to process their need? And then hopefully you get that information, you process them, you close that lead, and you create a new customer. But if not, here's where you can also win people, right? If you don't have the capacity to take them on, if you're too busy, if you're not a right match, is there somebody you can refer them to and still create a win out of them? Because even if you can't serve them, they might say to their friend, hey, these guys can take me, they were super helpful in just pointing me to the right place and the right resource, and that might become a referral to you. That costs you basically nothing. So once you've got that client in, what is your process, even if it's just a 30-second email or a text or when you end the visit, hey, how are things going? Do you have any feedback for us, things we could be doing better? And they're knowing that you're listening to the client's needs, you're listening to the family and loved ones' needs, and they're going to give you that feedback, which either gives you something to report out as a testimonial or something that you can improve on. And don't be afraid. If you get good feedback, then ask them. Ask them, can I use your quote to put in my ad? Can I videotape you on my phone and share that testimonial with potential clients? I mean, don't be shy about asking for these things, because if people are happy with the services you're providing, they're going to be willing to help you out if you make it easy for them. And that can create more leads. I know I went through that fast, so we're happy to talk questions. Hope you'll come to the breakout session. And we'll definitely make sure you get these, because it's got all these slides in here as well. Thank you.
Apparently I have a thing for the number 4, so this is what we're planning on talking about in the breakout session as well. Practicing telling your story, mapping out a marketing plan, learning about existing follow-up tools, and discuss basic design principles. One thing I really want to highlight here in number 3 is in that last slide around follow-up. There's some automated, cheap to free tools that already exist that you can plug into your website, that you can plug into your phone. And so we'll sort of brainstorm some of those to help you get that 24-hour turnover. So yeah, we'd just like to open it up for questions for the last little bit of time that we have up here if anyone has anything.
No questions?
We're all waiting for the breakout.
Yeah, so one of the challenges a lot of home care agencies face, like they have 2 customers in some ways. Like one is the client, but the other is actually the worker, the recruit, right? Because the recruitment problem, like recruitment is a huge issue. And so I think one of the things that a challenge that people face is like, how do you talk to, with one sort of place, how do you talk to 2 audiences and how do you address that? And I think just on the storytelling side of things is like, what is that story? Like, how do you, just thoughts around how to balance between the client versus the worker? Because in some ways, from a recruitment standpoint, the thing that where like a lot of care workers are really trying to sell is like, come work for us as opposed to some other agency because there's not enough workers in the field.
Yeah. So yes, there are certain pieces of the story that appeal to both audiences, right? And sort of identifying those. So like, for example, in the scenario where we were working with the folks in Colorado, one of the things that really resonated with the workers and the potential clients was the training and safety measures, right? That's something that impacts both sides. And so figuring out what those sort of key overlaps are if you only are able to do one type of advertising. I will say also, for folks that digital makes sense with, the nice thing about it is that you can sort of break it out as well and test for multiple different audiences and see where there is and isn't overlap, and then use that to inform any of your printed materials or your traditional advertising as well. That doesn't always make sense, but you can also do surveys, you can take a look at your testimonials. I'm a really big advocate for digging into your data and testing all of your theories. And so we can also talk a little bit more in depth about what that looks like. But yeah, if you have one shot at this, one brochure, right? Figure out what that Venn diagram is. Take a look at things like training, like wages, like turnover. Those are things that appeal to both sides, and also, have the added bonus of appealing to any referral partners or decision makers or lawmakers, right? So there are a lot of those facts that really touch on everyone.
Well, let's talk about how there's, with the referral partners, different levels, different individuals, and I'm curious to have tips to share for the group on how to get beyond the advocate. Sometimes advocates can actually be a blocker as well, even though they're supportive. They may not necessarily kind of push you through to the decision maker based on their own internal power. So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna pick on Linda's story around like getting close to elected officials, right? Because they know the Medicaid director in their area, right? So that's someone who could get you to like right to the decision maker if it's like your clinical director or something. I mean, I like to get multiple advocates wherever I don't take no for an answer. So if my one advocate's not going to get me to where I go find another advocate. Because if you're delivering quality services, there's more than one person that's noticing you and paying attention. But that person's not going to get you to a decision maker. I would argue they're not a real advocate.
I'd also just sort of add that we can always ask questions, right? So if the advocate's running into a roadblock, it could be that they haven't been an advocate before or they're missing a key solution. An example that I have, again, more on the advocacy side, but was about problem solving. We provided a map the state of Colorado, because we were finding out from the folks on the ground that one of the biggest issues that they had is their only way of contacting folks directly was to go and actually knock on their door. And you guys all know with home care work, it's not as clear as like, well, they work 9 to 5, right? And so we were guessing when we were actually going to get in touch with them. So by asking the folks what the problem was, we were able to solve for that problem by creating a map that allowed folks to say, I live in this area, I want to book a meeting with somebody, right? And so that allowed for us to just really pipeline, and folks were self-identifying when they could actually have these meetings. And so one of the things I just love to do is ask what that actual problem is, because you have the creative experience to draw from to actually solve these problems, right? Because you probably have experienced it with a different client or a different partner before.
Yeah.
My question is, what tips or steps should home care worker co-ops take to eliminate possible prospect clients in the earlier stage, so we don't spend a lot of hours on managing that prospect just for them to say, no, I'm going to go with another agency?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this in the last session around those like flippers or whatever we call them. I don't know that I have a solution for not spending a lot of time on them. I think that first step in the qualifying the lead piece can help a little bit with that, right? So if somebody comes in and they're like, I need your services, have ready like the information you need from them to actually qualify that. That can help a little bit, because like if they're serious, you're making them do at least a little bit of work to get you the information you need. So people who aren't able to or not willing to do that will get weeded out fast. That doesn't change the fact that they could just change their mind at the last minute. But so I don't know how to make up for what I call like opportunity cost.
So it's still worth it to spend.
It's still worth it. I think the key here is actually like keep your pipeline of leads more full. So if you lose one, there's one right behind it. I think that's a more sustainable solution.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would also say that, like, similar to that advocate answer, finding out what somebody's key issue is so that you can focus at all of your future communications around that, right? If their key issue is, I'm having trouble juggling my child care and my parents' care, you know, focus in on those solutions, right? Because not everybody's key issue is going to be the same. So part of your onboarding process can sort of get to the roots of that, and then you can reassess sort of how you talk to them. Because if their issue isn't price and you keep talking to them about price, they're going to be like, these folks don't hear me.
Well, I hope you come to the breakout session.